So let's take a look at how coaching is different from a few other types of interactions which people may actually pay for or not. You'll see what I mean. First of all, consulting. Now, in consulting, someone is definitely paying for the service, but consulting is different from life coaching because consulting usually has to do with a very, very limited scope. For example, you will find that consultants usually have worked as professionals in the area in which they currently consult. So a consulting statistician, for example, may have had a career as a statistics professor. I remember hearing recently about a college professor of mine. I had a physics class early on in my college career, and a professor of mine, for some reason I looked him up on the internet recently, and I found out that he's a consultant for accidents that happen. So when an accident happens, he reconstructs it using a model based on physics to see who is at fault. And they say that a train was coming at a certain mile per hour speed, and this happened and that happened, and he calculates the sound of the horn and the speed of the train and so forth and finds out what happens. He pieces everything back together. He is now a consultant in a very specific field. He has a PhD in physics, and he consults in a very narrow range. So a consultant is usually someone who is called in who is an expert in a very, very limited area. For example, you can have a legal consultant, and even more specifically, you can have a legal consultant who is good at corporate mergers. Just a consultant, but that person has perhaps had a legal career dealing with corporate mergers. And now this person is acting as a consultant. Also, consultants usually work part-time. It's usually not what they do full-time. It's something they do just to kind of keep their finger on the pulse of what's going on. They're consulting about it. They don't want to give up their career, but they don't really want to do their career full-time either, so they consult. So life coaching is different from that in that, first of all, you will be doing it full-time if you want to. And secondly, you are not limited to any specific field. You don't have to be an expert in any one field. You don't have to focus on any one field. You are called in to motivate and to get the person going and to get them working within a plan in any field. You don't have to be an expert in that field to help motivate them and get them working toward a goal in that field. So life coaching is different from consulting. It's also different from advice. Advice you wouldn't pay for ordinarily. Of course, bad advice you'll pay for many times over if you take bad advice, but advice in general is free. It's something that friends give, and perhaps you've been giving a lot of advice. Perhaps that's what led you to this program. Perhaps you're tired of giving free advice. You're tired of people coming to you and saying, hey, what should I do? Or, hey, can you help me get a plan together? Hey, I need to move forward, but I really need some help doing it. Can you come over and help me create a plan of action? You're so good at that with yourself. Can you come over and help me do it? You're probably a person who has gotten that once or twice. And of course, there's the expectation that there won't be a fee. In other words, you won't be making any money at it, but you will be helping them. You will be helping them do something. So advice is different from consulting in that you will be paid for it, but with money comes the expectation of it working out. A patient of mine one time told me at my Beverly Hills office, he said, he was an insurance agent. We were talking about prices before the session began. My prices, his prices, other people's prices for what we do and what they do and what people do in general. And he said something to me which has stuck with me for a long time. This was probably about 10 years ago that he said this. And he said, price is only an issue in the absence of value. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. In other words, you can charge whatever you want, as long as you're delivering the value that goes along with that price tag. If you're charging $25,000 for something, you better be delivering at least $25,000 worth of value to them, to that person or to that company or to that situation. If you're not, then it's going to be an issue. But if you are delivering, then it's okay. everything's fine. So realize that advice is something that you used to give away, and now it's something you charge for, and you no longer call it advice, you call it life coaching. You're still giving advice. That's part of what you do. Part of what you do. But technically, advice you don't charge for, and life coaching you better be charging for. I don't want to find out that you're giving away life coaching. That's not what this is all about. Trust me when I say people appreciate help more when they pay for it. No matter what you're charging, whether it's $5 or $5 million, people appreciate things more when they're paying for it. It also sets you up as a professional. It creates a professional relationship in which you're not just working with buddies, helping them out. You're actually a professional. How is it different from mentoring? Well, in many ways, life coaching is mentoring. Just like in many ways, life coaching is advice, and to some degree, it's consulting. But it's different from mentoring in that you have, again, just like with consulting, a wider scope that you can work with. Mentoring usually has a limited connotation. You're mentoring someone, you're working with them on one thing, and you're an expert at the one thing. In life coaching, you don't have to be an expert at the one thing. Let's say somebody hired you as a life coach to work on their golf swing, and you don't know anything about golf. You've never even picked up a golf club, but you're mentoring them. You're working with them. You're helping them. So you're not actually mentoring them per se in the technical definition of it, because you don't really know anything about golf. So you're not a golf mentor. So that's the difference. You don't have to be an expert. A golf consultant better be, he or she better be an expert. A golf mentor, should be an expert. But a golf life coach does not have to be an expert. And this is where we get into the fascinating and beautiful part of life coaching. And it's the same with hypnotherapy, with what I mainly do, which is hypnotherapy. You don't have to be an expert in the field that you're helping them with. They already know how to do it. And chances are they're working with someone who's an expert. Chances are they've got a consultant or a mentor or a coach or something like that. They need something else. So many times, people will come to me and say, I need help. A black belt in karate needs help. I'm not a black belt in karate. I took a little bit of it, but I'm not a black belt. A world-class gymnast came to me one time. Her coach brought her to me, and he sat there during the sessions to make sure I did the sessions right. But he was an expert in gymnastics. He trained her in gymnastics. I don't know anything about gymnastics. I'm not even very flexible. It doesn't matter. I don't have to be a gymnast to understand how to coach someone. All he wanted me to do was, in my case, use hypnosis on her, but also get her motivated, get her to do the things she knew how to do. She already knew how to do them. She was just messing up in key clutch moments when she should have been performing. She was messing up, injuring herself, and getting eliminated from not only the competition, but also eliminated from a lot of things she wants to do in life, like walk around without limping, because she was actually injuring herself. So I didn't have to be an expert. I didn't have to be a mentor or a consultant, but I also didn't give away advice. I sold my services as a life coach and a hypnotherapist. And that's what you want to do. Sell your services, but realize you don't need to be an expert. You are not a mentor. You are a life coach. Let's look at counseling. Counseling is something that when you look at it legally, usually a counselor is a therapist, a licensed therapist, licensed by their state in their country, and they are practicing something that they have been trained for, usually at a university, and they have a degree on the wall, and they have a license on the wall, a little piece of paper from the state they live in saying it's okay for them to work with people. That's a counselor. Usually they're PhD psychologists, or they've got a master's degree in counseling. Sometimes they're MFTs, marriage and family therapists, very popular in California. Sometimes they've got an MA, a Master of Arts, sometimes an MS, Master of Science. But those are counselors. They are trained usually at a university, and they're also licensed. The word counselor and the phrase counseling carry with them some legal implications. You will not, by virtue of taking this program, be a counselor. Do not call yourself a counselor unless for some reason it's okay in your area. Most areas It's not okay. In most areas, what they want to do is make sure that you are not using that term. You are not using the legal term, because counselor is a term that if you use it, you will actually cause some trouble for yourself. So there's some fairly strict regulation when it comes to counseling. So life coaching is different from counseling in the sense that you don't have to be licensed to do it. You don't have to be licensed to practice as a life coach. Anyone, believe it or not, can call themselves a life coach in most areas. Now, of course, what's going to distinguish you from them is that you're going to have some advanced training. You're going to have the thoroughness of this program, and you're going to have the confidence to know that you're going to be able to help people. When you get into phrases like counselor, that causes some potential legal challenges for you, unless, of course, you are trained otherwise at a university. So realize that. Also, the difference between life coaching and counseling is that you're usually not going to go that deep with someone. In counseling, doesn't it bring up the image for you of someone sitting in a chair with a pad of paper and a pen and writing who knows what while the person's reclining on a couch and telling their life story and telling what's going wrong with them and so forth, and the counselor is nodding? That's what it brings up in my mind. That's a counselor. They're going very deep. They're very attentive. They're really getting into what the person's talking about on a deep psychological level. And because of that, they're able to offer counseling services. Now, the counselor is licensed to do that. You are, in most cases, in most areas, not licensed. So keep all of those things in mind. Let's take a look at how life coaching is different from therapy. Now, counseling is one thing. Therapy is something that is similar to counseling, yet not necessarily the same thing. Therapy goes one step further. You're not just saying you're counseling someone, you're claiming to actually therapeutically aid them in some way. So you're a therapist. So a therapist, again, is something you want to stay away from. Not a therapist. Don't stay away from a therapist. If you need one, go to one, of course. But the term, calling yourself a therapist, you want to stay away from that unless you've had some other training besides this training, because therapist, calling yourself a therapist, is going to potentially get you into some trouble. You are going to potentially cause some challenges for yourself by calling yourself a therapist. For example, many states in the United States of America have very strict laws. If you represent yourself as a therapist, you had better have a degree from a school and an actual university. That's what I'm talking about. And you also should have the counseling, or therapy in this case, certification. You should have the licensing behind it. If you don't have those things, you are going to get yourself into trouble, just like counselors. So counseling, therapy, very similar. In many cases, there's not much of a distinction between them, but I strongly suggest that you avoid both of them. Now, when we think about therapists, there are a number of different kinds of therapists. There's a hypnotherapist, for example. That's what I call myself, a hypnotherapist. But even in my profession, the legally preferred term in many areas is hypnotist. And the word hypnotherapist is looked down upon. In many places, the states, in the United States at least, do not want hypnotherapists to call themselves hypnotherapists because of the word therapy. They want them to stay away from it. So one of the largest organizations for hypnotherapy, the National Guild of Hypnotists, is very adamant about this. They call themselves hypnotists, not hypnotherapists. So when I started certifying people as hypnotherapists, it was a while back, I changed it over time to certifying them as hypnotists. So stay away from these terms. Stay away from calling yourself these things, counselor or therapist, unless you are otherwise trained and licensed. How is life coaching different from critiquing? Well, in many cases, you will be doing some critiquing. You'll be critiquing the lifestyle of your client. And I recommend that you call them a client, by the way, not a patient. A patient sounds a little too clinical. I call my people who come to see me, clients or patients. I use the words interchangeably, but they're usually lying down. I'm more of a counselor, if you will, more of a therapist, if you will, although I don't legally use those terms. But what you're going to be doing is not really conjuring up the image of someone lying down and you sitting there with a pen and paper and scribbling something on it and so forth. You are going to be critiquing them to a large degree. You're going to be looking at what they're doing and saying, hey, wait a minute, this is all wrong. You need to do this. If you want to get to that goal, you need to do this. So you are going to be, to a large degree, critiquing them. But really, it goes so much further than that. So much further than just critiquing someone. If you are going in and you're just critiquing, then you are not actually doing any life coaching. Critiquing is similar to criticizing. If you were telling someone, hey, you need to fix this, you need to change that, you need to do something else, you need to do this differently. Well, that's nice, that's interesting, but you're actually not offering a solution when all you're doing is critiquing. So part of what you're doing is critiquing, but most of what you're doing is helping them get to the solution. You are there to solve their problems or challenges. Make no mistake about it. That's what you're there for. So just walking in and saying, hey, this is wrong. This is wrong. That's wrong. The other thing's wrong. I think you should do this differently. Why don't you change what you're doing there? You see how I'm talking there and where I'm going with this. I'm just pointing out things that are wrong. When actually what I should be doing is doing that in my head, saying, okay, these things are wrong. I'm going to put them down here. And then when I present things to the client, I'm going to, rather than getting all over them and saying you're wrong, I'm just going to say, have you ever thought about doing this? Have you ever thought about doing it this way? That's how I would start with a client when you don't know them. Now, eventually, if you develop rapport, you can just say, hey, buddy, you need to change this. Hey, miss or mister, you need to change what you're doing. You need to do it this way instead of that way. Come on, get with it. If you establish really good rapport, you can do that with someone. But initially, you want to get your critique list in your mind and then share that with them in the form of a solution list, because every critique you have should have an accompanying solution. So how is life coaching different from guidance? Well, guidance conjures up the idea for me of going to a guidance counselor. And when you go to a guidance counselor, they sit behind a desk, and they're not really proactive. They're just sitting behind a desk. I've gone to guidance counselors numerous times in my academic career. I remember when I first started college, I was only allowed to take, I think, 12 or 15 credit hours per semester. And I wanted to get my 2-year degree done in 1 year because I wanted to get on with my 4-year degree. I wanted to get that done. So part of that was there's this little degree called the associate's degree that you can get on your way to getting your bachelor's degree, which is, of course, before your master's and specialist and doctorate degree. But when I first started, I was 17 years old and full of fire and energy and so forth, and they told me I could only take 12 or 15 hours. I had to go to the guidance counselor and say, look, these classes are classes that I can take more of. They're just my beginning classes. I'm okay with this. I don't have to work. I didn't have to support myself at the time when I first started college. So I had the luxury of having a lot of time to study. So I told the guidance counselor all of this. The guidance counselor sat behind his desk and he listened to me and he said, okay, well, we'll try it out. And it worked out. And I got the 2-year degree done in 1 year. But the guidance counselor at no point came around to the other side of the desk and said, well, let me look through your classes you're taking. And do you need any help in any of your classes? And how about arranging the schedule? Can we do anything about that? So there was nothing really proactive about what the guidance counselor did. So when you think of the word guidance is sort of like advice. It's kind of like advice that leads you somewhere. Advice can be kind of general. Guidance is sort of like advice that has a definite meaning to it. So when you're doing that, still, you're not proactive. You're not down in the trenches with the person. You're on the other side of the desk, either metaphorically or in reality. You're on the other side of the desk. You're just offering your sage advice. You've got wonderful things to say, and they may very well be wonderful, but that's all guidance is. And that's what guidance counselors do. They say, I think you should do this and that. I remember in high school, we had a meeting with a guidance counselor. I think in my final year, I had a meeting with a guidance counselor to talk about college. And the meeting was about 5 minutes. And he said, what are you taking? Okay. Where do you want to go to college? Okay. All right. That should do it. Next. And that was it. That was the guidance I got. At no point did he come around and help me out or anything like that. So you are offering something much more detailed, much more in-depth than guidance. You are getting down in the trenches with them, making sure they're getting up on time, making sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. So those are the differences between what you are going to be doing and what everyone else is doing.